Hello, hello. Welcome to the SpoilerCast for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2014. How are you doing, guys?
How you doing?
Doing well.
Today we have a special guest, our good friend Kerry. He watched the movie with us, and he felt like he could talk with us about this movie. How are you doing, man?
Not bad, man. Hello, Pod World.
The world of Pod awaits
Kerry.
You're welcome.
Well, we are going to talk about all things TMNT today. We saw this on Thursday, that opening preview night at 7.
Thursday at 7.
Yep.
Love those showings.
Thank you for 7 o'clock
So much time to do activities after.
So much better. It's so weird. Like one of the things about this movie, it's a shorter movie. It's like hour 40, hour 45, and like walking out it being like 9. It's like wow.
Which is kind of unusual for Michael Bay.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. But to start things off, where do your guys' like history with the Turtles? Like when you were kids, obviously you probably had some turtle stuff going on, but like what were you guys into like growing up?
I mean, for me, it was just I loved the old cartoons. Like I'd wake up super early just to watch it. That was my thing, and then I'd run around with like rags tied around my head, pretending I'm either Donatello or Michelangelo because I thought they were the coolest. But overall, it was a good foundation, like with the basic cartoons. But I loved them. Played most of the games for Sega Genesis, SNES, so good history with them.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it was a lot of the same. Like, I was a little late to the game, so I didn't really get into the first movie, the 1991. My favorite one was the second one, because I didn't really watch the first one. I just don't think I had it, which was really the thing. It was like, now I know the first one, the 1991, was much better than Secret of the Ooze. But for me, I was like, oh, man. What are you talking about? The first one, the second one's the best one. I remember watching the first one and that opening. Oh, no, not the first one, the second one, and always seeing that opening where they were showing around New York City and all the people eating pizza, and I always wanted pizza, so I'd like beg my mom for pizza always after watching that. But I thought that was the best one, and I always rented from Blockbuster for NES. TMNT 3, it was the third NES game. I think it was called the Manhattan Project, and I thought it was just awesome. It was the best one on NES for sure. But since then, I mean, I'm not really a Turtles fan. Like, it's not one of those things that carried on throughout my entire like life. It's one of those things I really liked as a kid, but it wasn't like something like Superman or Spider-Man for me. So I'm not too sensitive about the property. How about you, Luke?
I can remember catching like random episodes of the cartoon. I just looked it up. 87 to 96 it ran, the original.
Wow.
I don't even know what network it was on. I think Fox, but then the 1990 movie, and I think for me, I almost more connect with like the merchandise, which is kind of funny because I remember watching some episodes, and as I've told you guys, we didn't have cable then, so I was kind of lacking in some of the cartoons and stuff I was able to watch. We had almost no internet out there. We got dial-up in like 98 or something.
Killing it.
So it was a different world than it is now. But I can remember like I had a tent that I had, like Ninja Turtles tent.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I think I had that too.
I remember it.
I remember just setting that thing up in my room just because I thought it was such a cool tent. Like, you guys probably know, like, you have those certain things you just think you have the coolest, whatever it is, whether it's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles tent or a Power Rangers bandana or whatever it is. If it's franchised with what you think is cool, you have to bring it with you. You wear that thing out. Like, I remember I had a lunchbox that was like, I can't even remember what it was, but I wore that thing out. Like, I always brought it with me everywhere I went. And so I can also remember my mom used to make us custom make each year for Halloween costumes. And she would go to Joann Fabrics and she would find plans and then she would hand stitch it, which is an amazing thing for a mom to do. And she actually made me a custom Spider-Man costume, but also a custom Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles costume with a shell.
That's
and
awesome.
Those two costumes combined, I wore so much until I was far too old to be wearing costumes that were skin tight, running around the house like an idiot.
Show up first day at high school, dressed as a turtle. Hey guys,
I wore it till it was like the Spider-Man outfit was like halfway up to my knee. Like it was
wow,
it was bad.
Your mom was a warrior for making you those costumes.
It was those kind of things that like instilled in me a love, even though I may not have known the characters as well and may not have been able to see the TV show as much as other people did. But it was like a love for those characters because it was something very young that was like, oh yeah, the Ninja Turtles, those are the guys.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like when we were like in high school and stuff, there like Turtles was kind of dead. I know there was a TV show that came out in 2003 that was successful that kind of put some life into the franchise again. But other than that, like by the time 2007 rolled around and that CGI movie came out, like Turtles wasn't that relevant. So I feel like that movie came and went. But since then, it's been like pretty big again. Like Nickelodeon has their show now. Like Nickelodeon now has the rights to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is interesting. But now it's really popular with the kids again, and so I think that's what spurred on this movie to get made. But what were you guys' thoughts like when you heard about this movie? When you saw the trailers? I know this movie, like a lot of crazy announcements at first, like Michael Bay was talking about, oh, there's going to be an alien origin, and then there was a outrage, and then things kind of turned around at that point. But like, what did you guys think about like everything like that you heard about this movie?
It was one of those movies that I just went in with low expectations. I mean, I was just going in saying, oh, you know what? Fresh start, let's see how it goes. I heard they modified the way they looked a little bit, so I was like, okay, whatever. I'll give them, the artists, their due. They can do with it what they want. Let's see what they do with it. Honestly, I feel like Michael Bay did a good job with them, the Turtles themselves. They were more, to me, it was just more believable, because when I was little, I always wondered, okay, you've got the Ninja Turtles. I felt like they always should have had like that accelerated strength. And they showed that in this movie. Like, they were powerful. It's like they were like a force to be. It's more physical strength. The fact they were pushing containers around, steel containers around, I was like, yes, that's what they should be able to do. They're mutated turtles. They should have super strength. They should be able to do these things. So I feel like some of the things that Michael Bay did with the Turtles was very well done.
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard, I think I was like kind of like everyone else. Like the moment I heard aliens, I was like, I am completely uninterested at this point. Just do it. I might see it, but I don't know. But then like fan outcry happened, and then hey, I think Michael Bay did something pretty honorable. He said, "All right, I'm gonna change it back to how it was. Don't get mad. Don't get mad." I mean, like. Honestly, I don't know about that was really charitable of me to say honorable. I think it's more not crazy, stupid, insane thing to do, because it would just been the most horrible thing if that happened, that no one would have wanted to see it.
So bad.
Yeah, Luke, what were your like expectations coming into this?
Well, with almost all these franchises, like I was saying, that I've really grown attached to from when I was younger. I just, like, as soon as something's announced, even that has to do with that universe, I'm super excited. Like, I can't help it. That's just kind of how I am. So, as soon as they said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even though, like, I'm starting to have ill feelings towards Michael Bay for reasons recently developed.
Yes.
And so that's kind of becoming an ilk when someone says that Michael Bay is going to be the director, or even rumored to be the director. That being said, I didn't really know it at first when it was first announced, and so I was extremely excited. And then, you know, I slowly tailed off as like the aliens. I was like, okay, that's just absolutely ridiculous. If he does that, like, I may not see this movie. It was a terrible idea, and luckily he peeled that back. But yeah, so I was super excited, and then I kind of, you know, wavered a little bit, and I was a little frightened walking into the theater.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, like, a lot of people label this as Michael Bay's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where in fact he's not the writer, he's not the director, but he's obviously the one with the most clout, the most money, and it'll be foolish to think that his shadow does not gloom over this movie a little bit, and he has influence here. But it's like Jonathan Liebesman, who the guy who director and writer, which he hasn't done all too much. I mean, movies like Battle for L.A. and Wrath of the Titans are pretty big budget, but they just didn't really go anywhere. So I guess let's get right into it and talk about where this movie does go with our review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's go. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about our just general feelings real quick. Nothing like, don't get too into depth of it. This is a spoiler podcast, so we can go into it as deep as we want. But just to start, let's just like wet our beaks a little bit and just kind of give our impressions. Kerry, you want to go ahead and go?
My overall impression, it was like watching a live action Saturday morning cartoon. It wasn't heavy, but it wasn't too light. It was just like the perfect blend, I feel like.
Okay. Luke, what were your general impressions overall?
There were certain things that I thought were well done, and then there were certain things that really annoyed me about this movie.
Okay.
Just to be real general.
Yeah, for me, half awesome, half awful. So, and we'll talk about where they met up. First of all, I guess let's talk about the turtles themselves. Yeah, as Kerry, as you talked about, they've gotten a little bit of an overhaul, and they are bigger, they're bulkier, almost like miniature Hulks a little bit. They're just about 6'4" or something like that. They're super strong, and there's a lot of people are complaining about this. They say they're grotesque, which honestly, when I saw the trailer the first time, where like you see Mikey take off his mask for the gag, oh no, freak out, look, see, and I was like, ugh. He looks like creepy, but like honestly, as time has gone on and gotten the look at the turtles through the promotion, I was kind of more accepting even by the time I walked into the movie. So really, it didn't bother me as much. The way they looked, I actually kind of got into it. I thought they looked kind of cool by the end of it, but I kind of can see where people come from. I mean, like I think as history showed us, they usually have a cute look. They almost look cute in a lot of things, especially that 80s cartoon. That's
very true.
That's the look that I think people have grown most accustomed to, like a really happy, really friendly and cute look. And so I guess to see this was like a really big departure for some people. But one thing I think they got really right in this one, which is that they were able to actually separate the turtles in look and in characterization. Like, when I say characterization, I really mean their character traits are really revealed here. Because, unfortunately, we don't get too much actual character stuff in this movie with the turtles, which is a real big disappointment for me. Like, once the movie starts rolling, it keeps rolling, doesn't really stop. But the characterization of especially turtles that usually get the shaft in most movies, like Donatello, actually gets to be the smart guy, and that's actually really cool. And like just little things that they even do visually with the turtles, like Donnie having like these telescopes for his little goggles, and like Raph having almost like a do-rag to make him look more BA, and like Mikey having this like shell necklace because he's like a surfer dude. Just like a lot of cool stuff like that. But
with the unmovable sunglasses.
The unmovable sunglasses, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff as to how they just neglected to characterize them. But we'll move on from that. We'll come back to it. But go ahead, guys. Whoever wants to sound off about the turtles, go ahead.
Well, the turtles themselves, like I pointed out, and like you pointed out too, the separation, like there was never any clue, like, okay, that's definitely who this is. Even when they were like children, I could still pick them out. It's like they didn't go in depth with like them growing up and learning the martial arts. You get just the overview of, oh, I picked it up, here you go, I'm teaching them now, from Splinter's point of view. But like Michelangelo has always been like my favorite, and I like how they he had this amazing skateboard, and he had it, and then Donatello's stick isn't just a normal stick, it's like a power pole.
Yeah,
it's like Goku's power pole extend, and that's what it came out to be for me. And the relationship between Leonardo and Raphael is usually the focus in most of like the CGI movie. That was a big focus. In this movie, yeah, they focused on it again, but it wasn't the main focus of the movie. It wasn't the central. And it's like I feel like you got a good general separation for everyone. Everyone got their turn. Everyone got their time. This fight scene between Splinter and Shredder, that honestly was probably like one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie.
Okay.
Because I was like actually seeing Splinter learn and teach the turtles that all the martial arts, and then actually fight Shredder. I mean, even though he got beat, but so what? He was amazing at it, and that was probably like the highlight for me, I would have to say.
All right, cool, Luke. You can go ahead and shout out.
I think definitely the best part of the whole movie was the turtles and how they looked, and I totally get how people, were put off by the way they looked in the trailers, and I had my doubts about it too, but I think it did end up looking pretty good. Like for me, the way the turtles always looked was like the 1990. Like for me, that was it. Like that was the defining look of the turtles, and it was kind of a goofy look, like you guys were saying, and I think it was a good mix of taking it a little darker and a little more serious, but they definitely still kept that like goofiness to them, and I think each of the characters were pretty well defined, and the voice acting was pretty good. No, maybe 7 out of 10 for the voice acting.
Yeah, it was
pretty good.
It was acceptable for sure. Nothing mind blowing.
Yeah.
But would you say like? Do you think we can agree and like just go ahead and get this out of the way that the turtles are the best part of this movie?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. I think that's the one part of this whole movie that they nailed.
That's what saved it.
Yeah,
I think that the look maybe could have been better. I don't think it was the perfect look for the turtles, but I think it was a pretty good look. It was a good step in the serious direction that was necessary for a movie like this. It was, maybe 70% serious and 30% a comedy.
Yeah. One complaint that I do kind of have about their size, where it does actually make for a lot of cool set pieces. Like it allows for a lot of cool stuff to happen with their strength for sure. It does cheat some of the fight scenes in a way, because we do get a lot of awesome ninjutsu in this movie, but because they're so big and strong, I feel like when they're fighting foot ninjas, usually they can just kind of throw them around because they're so big. There's not really a reason to like use much ninjutsu on them, so they're kind of just throwing their weight around, which is fine because you don't see that a lot, and you do see a lot of acrobatic stuff in ninjutsu and them using their turtle appearance to their advantage. But yeah, it's kind of a catch-22. Their size for me. A lot of people hate it, but I don't see it as a big deal. But let's move on for the turtles from now. Yeah, sorry guys, it's like a thunderstorm here, so it's how epic this podcast
emphasizes what we're saying.
Absolutely. Let's move on from here. It's ominous because I think, in my opinion, we're about to talk about one of the worst parts about this movie: the villains. Dear Lord, I'll go ahead. I thought the villains in this movie were laughably weak. I'll go ahead and get the good out of the way real quick. Shredder, he looked awesome, and he was imposing. And that's about the best I could say about it. And also the fact that we kind of went into this thinking the William Fichtner character, we thought that he was going to be Shredder. I think he was talking about it like, oh yeah, it's awesome, I can't believe I get to play Shredder. But no, he's not Shredder. His name is Eric Sachs. He's like an inventor kind of guy, kind of a representation of like the rich guy in the city. But and he's actually the ward, or like the understudy of Shredder. I don't know what happened. I think he was
he was really. Like his family got killed, and Shredder took him in and taught him all these things, and they were plotting to go against the world together. So it's basically, I'm an orphan, you got to basically take him by the wrong father, and then he taught you all his evil ways.
Oh goodness gracious. Let's go ahead and get this plot. Let's go ahead and see if together we can piece together what Shredder and Eric Sachs were thinking when they hatched this scheme. All right, so I'm guessing it's around the 90s or so where Eric Sachs and Dr. O'Neill are trying to create this end-all cure, like a super serum almost with a mutagen, and they're experimenting on turtles and a rat. Okay, there's your origin for the turtles this time. All right, and so with that, I guess Eric Sachs, working with the Shredder this entire time, has in mind, all right, we're gonna get this cure, and then I'm gonna make the disease. All right, that's fine, and then that doesn't work out, and so throughout these decades of the turtles being gone, I don't know what the heck they're doing.
Nothing. That was our only plan we had. What are we gonna do now?
The Foot Clan seemed to still be stealing chemicals for the plan, but what were they planning on doing with the chemicals? They didn't have the cure. Were they just gonna kill everyone?
They'd already equipped the whole tower. Well, I guess the theory is that they had equipped the tower back then, and it had just been equipped all this time. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
there's a big hole.
and so yeah, they're stealing all this stuff. And so when April O'Neil talks to Eric Sachs and he's like, "You gotta believe me, there's these turtles," and he's like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Oh, this is great. Now we can have this cure." And he's so surprised, as if he legitimately thought that they were gone. So I have no idea what they were thinking at this point.
Which doesn't say much for a super cure if a fire is going to kill these things that are injected with this thing.
Yeah, right.
And how would that what they were injected over years? Like what?
Like they took their
daily
shots.
thing or something.
Like daily shots.
And
like,
pizza.
No wonder they're so big. Like in reality, wouldn't they be like 10 times as big as they were?
Yeah, for sure. And oh my gosh, for some reason, like William Fichtner, he's a legitimate actor. I know he's been in a lot of stuff, but for me, all I can think of him when I see him is, hey, Dark Knight, as the one guy in the beginning. Yeah. Do you know whose bake this is? You and your friends are dead, or whatever. And so, but he has awful dialogue in this movie with lines like "time to take a bite out of the Big Apple."
Oh. To me, that was my least favorite thing, was the script.
Oh,
I thought the script was horribly written. For you, the enemies, and I totally agree with you there, but also, like, every line that April O'Neil said I thought was absolutely abysmal. Mm-hmm. Just the script, like, the way it flowed, and, like, Will Arnett, like, it didn't even make any sense. Like, the way he was, like, hitting on her, it was, like, weird, and it was, like... At one moment, he'd be completely professional, and then all of a sudden he was being a deviant, and then he's back to normal, like... What? Like, I don't know. It was strange. And then Megan Fox's roommate, like the one-liners, like it just had all the airs of a Michael Bay movie for me. Like when I saw those things.
Yeah, and
just starting to become a bad thing.
And it really started. The weakness of the script really became most apparent when the villains were talking. I thought that was when it was the most. And I guess April, but we'll get into her. Oh. But like. The thing is, like, when the turtles are talking and they're being cheesy, that's what you expect. I think that's what you want, really. I thought whenever the turtles would talk, I'd be like, this is great. This is like classic hero stuff. And you want them coming up against something darker and something more mature that they can clash up against. And like, by the time you hear the turtles making jokes and acting silly, it's endearing. But like, if the villains and all the human characters are acting almost as silly, it's like, it just all doesn't seem as good. Like, it just seems off to me. But I don't know. Like, what did you guys think of the villains? We haven't even really talked that much about Shredder, but like, what do you guys think of the villains?
I guess my big thing about Shredder is, yes, he looked amazing, but I just had this hard time fathoming this man in this giant metal suit being able to move as well as he was. I don't know. I'm like, that suit's not like Iron Man's suit. It wasn't. I'm like, it was just developed by Sachs, I guess. But it should have been. He shouldn't have had as much free movement. And I guess the blades that he had that would project out and then come back to him, that all made sense. And I'm like, okay, I can understand that. But when he was fighting the turtles, I'm like, no. Those guys just kicked around metal containers, and now this guy in a metal suit is kicking them around. No, something is wrong. So to me, that the fight between the turtles and Shredder, I was like, no, I can't accept this. I can't.
Yeah. I think that like stuff like that is like all in all the CGI in this movie I like the CGI of the turtles. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't like mind-blowing like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It was very good, I thought. But like when it comes to CGI and like Shredder and like his movements, that's when I think it really takes a kick in the pants, because that's when CGI will like make things less believable when it messes with the physics of something where you kind of have a little bit of understanding what a giant metal suit, how it should move, and when it has no effect on like the ninja inside and it's just like moving around like as no problem, it's kind of just, it takes away from a little bit of the believability and a little bit away from the imposition of the guy, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to going back to Iron Man. I feel like if that type of suit was available, he would have had it and we would have seen it, and that would have made it a little bit more believable. But if Iron Man doesn't actually fight like that, I have a hard time believing other metal machines can.
Yeah.
Tony Stark is devoted to making machines that he gets into and can fight with. I'm pretty sure he would have made a ninjutsu suit or some kind of fighting suit if that was possible. But they realized in Marvel, that's not... People don't put machines and people doing those types of things together. So them doing that with Shredder just kind of killed it.
Yeah, it just seemed kind of backwards to have him so encumbered by a big giant suit if he's gonna be flipping around and throwing splinter all over the place, you know?
I definitely agree with that. Let's go so far as to believe that this suit can do this. How can the ninjas defeat that? Or the
right?
Ninja Turtles? How could they defeat that?
True.
Are you kidding me? Like, the thing was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And to skip ahead a little bit, they have the giant fight at the end, and like, they're getting whooped. I mean, they're absolutely getting destroyed. Like, they have no chance. They're hanging off the side of the building. Then, they barely get back up. And then, we play, like, hopscotch.
It was like buck or something.
Buck.
Over each other, and that's it. Like, I get that you had to do something at the end that was like, we're a team. But, like, for me, that just was not it. It was like, what?
Mm.
How is this, like, the ultimate move? Like, I hearken to other movies that I don't want to say because it'll spoil those movies, but there's just other movies where it's a team and they work as a team and they're able to defeat the enemy because of something, to me, that makes sense. That it's like, okay, we acquired within ourselves together to defeat this person. Mm-hmm. To me, this wasn't really that. It was like they hit him like twice, and like, why were those hits all of a sudden much stronger than any of the hits they gotten on before? It was just...
It was because the script said it was at that point.
It's a stretch of the imagination.
Like,
I hate it when it's a stretch. Like you guys are saying, it needs to make sense why that was able to happen at that point with the physics and reality of the script that they've already written.
Yeah, and like, let me say this. Like, I appreciate that sentiment at the end. That's like, to me, that is better than what they did accomplish with the fight with Shredder in the first movie, to where it was just kind of Splinter to show up and basically Shredder trip like an idiot over his cane and fall into a trash compactor. And in the second one, Shredder committing suicide basically by trashing a dock and having it fall on himself. But like, yeah, it was... I wish they could have come up with something better and even more impressive, like maybe the turtles coming at them at different sides and like...
all together at once, like they should at all times?
Yeah.
Why did they not do that during the fight?
Instead of each one coming up to him, all right, now my turn.
Let him hit him first.
Yeah, which I appreciate that sentiment, that they that they couldn't do it apart, but they had to do it as a team. If nothing, they're like, seriously, like, the lessons and story arcs are very thin in this movie, and that's all I have to latch onto. But yeah, I wish they could have come up with a better way to defeat him. But I did kind of like the knives. Like, it was ridiculous, obviously, but I did like how he like throws them, and like they show the first time he does it, they show like the magnetic force like pulling him back, and that was crazy. I did kind of laugh in the theaters when he first appeared in front of Splinter, and he like has his knives out. He's like, shing, and then it's like a second one, shing, and like more knives, and then a third is like, shing,
just powering up more and more.
It was, yeah, that was, I laughed a little bit, like, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. I was waiting for like a fourth one, and just spikes come
his
all
entire
over his
body.
Boom! And he's like, okay, I can't move now. But yeah, I mean, all right, you want to talk about April? Let's talk about April. We'll throw Vern in there. a little bit. Megan Fox. Okay, well, I'm gonna be generous here. I'm gonna say this is Megan Fox's best performance. That being said, it's serviceable at best. Gosh, like it's not a good performance. It's really not. But like just her line delivery, just like screams I'm acting for when she's like kind of like acting crazy, like trying to explain things to people. Oh, Leonardo, Donatello, I've heard those names before. I've heard them before. And like something like my father experiment, and like as she was like acting crazy, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. But like as to the character herself, I do think that after the characterizations of April that I've seen, this is probably the best characterization of her. A lot of people hate the origin, like the way they changed the origin. I don't mind it. Like honestly, like I was thinking about it after I got out of the theater. I'm like, yeah, it was kind of dumb. But then I was like reversing all the other origins I've heard in my mind. I'm like, oh, that's kind of dumb too. But yeah, it's just whatever. It's kind of dumb how she was in there with them feeding them pizza. But I don't know. I thought it's a better excuse than anything they've given us before to propel her into the story, I think. I mean, I guess you could say having her being an investigative reporter is enough to have her investigate this, but it actually gave us a connection that was built in to the origin, which I think worked for me. I think I'm not so much a purist where that bothers me. I'm just like, all right, that works. That's efficient storytelling. But yeah, go ahead. You guys' thoughts on?
Luke, do you want Megan first, or do you want me?
I'll say. I've talked to a couple people about this before now. I have like feelings that are a little hard to explain. Like, I really don't hate Megan Fox like so many people do. I like her as certain characters. I think she's a pretty bad actor. Like overall, like she's just she's not terrible, but she's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of actors out there who are awful, and to me, there's a lot of actors who are really good, and there's a lot of actors who are in the Megan Fox pool, and then there's ones that just don't make it, and they're terrible. I wouldn't put her in that terrible. Like she fits certain roles well. Like we need that attractive girl who's a little ditzy. We need that in movies, and I feel like April O'Neil is that. I wish she was more intelligent than the way they scripted her, because I feel like she should be. Like an investigative journalist is usually someone pretty intelligent who's probably gone to college, gotten a degree in journalism. So that part I didn't like, but I didn't hate her as April O'Neil. I hated her acting as April O'Neil. Like to me, there's a difference. Like I thought she fit the role pretty well, but I thought she played the role really bad. Like that's my best explanation. And I don't know. Like I was also saying to somebody, like Tom Cruise in I wish I could remember the name before I started talking about it. No, well, that's a movie where he did great. He's a great actor. He's done excellent movies. But my point is, he's also been in movies where I think he did really bad, and I don't know if it's really his fault. And I kind of feel like that's where Megan Fox is in this movie. I don't think it's completely her fault. I think a lot of it is the script writing and the directing. They tell her to do certain things, and she does them, kind of like a robot, like a lot of actors do. And then there's some actors, that take the role on and really make it their own, like Tom Hanks for me. Like, he almost does that in almost every role. And he takes it on, he gives it a life of its own. And she just didn't do that. I don't think she'll do that with any role, probably. But so I blame this probably 50% on the directing and the script, and then 50% on Megan, because she could have taken the role further than I think she did. So yeah, overall I'd give her like a 2. Like it was awful. Yeah. I didn't like it, but it wasn't to me. Anyways, yeah.
All right, well I guess I'll rip into her right now. Okay, this
Megan.
might seem like I have a hate towards her. I don't. But personally, the only movie I think she's done really well in was the first Transformers, because I was like, that was her character. The ditzy, like you said, Luke, the ditzy, just, oh yeah, carefree girl who's just whatever.
I agree.
But at the same time, it's like, when I used to be in drama back in high school, the biggest honor was getting your character released to you. Because that basically stated that you knew the characters that you were taking on, that you made them your own, and that you had liberty to do with them as you saw fit. I don't feel like she's done that with any role. as you said, Luke, she's like a robot. That's how I feel. I feel like she's just a robot. She just does what they say. And because she has a pretty face and she has that look that guys are like, yes, I want her, I feel like that's why she gets these roles. Honestly, I didn't like her as April O'Neil. I wanted my April O'Neil to be the redhead April O'Neil. That's what I envisioned. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, I wonder who they're going to do. And then when I heard Megan Fox, I was like, so they're going to give her red hair at least?
Which they tried.
They tried, right? But yeah.
They did try that.
Didn't work out so well. But Jordan, you were talking about how some of her lines just were like her freaking out. My whole thing is she was very exasperated, like, oh my gosh. She just had to keep breathing. I was like, calm down. If you went to college and you're a reporter, journalist, it's like, one, I just saw her as a more being the go-getter, not afraid to get into the fight, but I felt like she was actually afraid half the movie. Like, and it just, I couldn't accept her as April O'Neil. And going, I guess, on Will Arnett's character, Vernon, yeah, he was kind of just back and forth. You never knew what he really was doing or thinking. It's like, goes from being, hey, I'm actually the nice guy, to I'm the creepy, sleazy guy over here trying to figure out how I can get in your pants. And it's like, he literally went back and forth to those where it's like, I don't know if I'm supposed to like him or dislike him. And I can't picture him running around with like a hockey stick.
And then all of a sudden he like saves her in the one part. Like,
yeah. And it's just,
wait, he's a hero. Wait, what?
It's like, I didn't know how to feel about those two. And it was a big kill for me, those two characters. Honestly, that was probably the weakest point. And I thought originally Will Arnett was going to do an amazing job, but because I think he's funny and I love him in most movies because he just cracks me up, but I just didn't get it from him in this movie.
Yeah, he was, for me, like Vernon, he was really middle of the road. I didn't really not like him, but he wasn't something that I'm ever going to really think about. But like, that's what you guys are saying about like her being ditzy, and like, I feel like that's not in the characterization, but the way that Megan plays it just, in most of her roles, I feel like a lot of her roles are supposed to be a strong woman, and that's the way they're supposed to be portrayed. She, obviously her characterization was supposed to be tenacious and like a go-getter, but the way she was portrayed, yeah, you just didn't believe it. You couldn't believe it. Just like, just how, just not good. I think we're pretty much all in agreement at that. To that point, I did like Will Arnett a little bit more. I thought he was fine. I wasn't really turned off by him. But also something I definitely noticed in this movie, which I give major props for, and I felt like maybe they may have been self-aware at a point. Megan Fox wasn't an object exactly in this movie like she is in a lot of movies. She was, she was wearing clothes, she wore jeans, and she wasn't showing her cleavage the entire movie.
At any point, really.
Yeah,
especially during the, I'm doing, what? When she was doing yoga on trampoline.
Yeah.
It's like she actually had like a full outfit where no skin was really being shown. I was like, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I think
that's the director or writer's respect for the character. So, that's a positive.
Exactly. I feel like that was almost a self-aware thing at the beginning where they're like have her on a trampoline, which usually, if this was probably Transformers 2, it would have been slow-mo. It would have been like the camera would have been down her cleavage.
Rotate around her. We're going to get 360.
Down a beach.
Exactly. See beads of sweat rolling down her entire body, glistening. Yeah, but this one, it was just like played for laughs. And like right after that, it was just like, it's like her saying, I want to be taken seriously. Which I appreciate the sentiment, but I wish you had the acting to go along with that. But yeah, let's anything else? Subjects. Splinter. What did you guys think of Splinter? Honestly, like, I thought the CGI on Splinter was probably the worst. I did not care for how he looked. How he fought, though, I thought was awesome. Like, we haven't really gotten a really cool Splinter fight in any of the movies, which I thought it was really cool. Like, One thing, another thing, which I had to go back to the origin. I wasn't too keen on how he became a master of ninjutsu. The fact that he kind of just found a book,
Found the book.
He was like found a
One of
book,
the
and he
biggest plot
became
holes I saw immediately.
He became amazing. He didn't have to be taught. He just found a book, which looked like a really simple book too.
Yeah.
It just had like
They're trying to-
pictures.
They're trying to get kids to read, I think, is the message.
If you read a book, you can become a Ninja Turtle.
You can
and
do
kick-
whatever the title says on the front of the book.
Exactly. And like, I mean, looking back on it, like the other origins aren't that much better. The fact that he was like in the first 1990 movie, he's like a little Muppet rat watching his master, and he's like practicing. He's like, yeah. It's like really silly. And then I
That's
think
right.
the other original origin is he's actually a ninjutsu master who was a human who was actually transformed into a mutant rat with the mutagen, but which I think probably was the best, but I don't know how they'd do that on a live action movie. But whatever, I tried to forget it as quickly as I could, but I can't. It was ridiculous. but yeah, some cool stuff about Splinter. I like the way he fights. I like his relationship with the turtles, even though we may not get enough of him. But the thing that makes him, I think, a little not as interesting is the fact that he is a New York rat. He's a New York rat, and so all these like wise kind of Asian philosophies that you'd get with Splinter don't have any right to be there because he's not from the Orient. He's not from Japan.
The Doctor wasn't Japanese or any kind of Orient.
Yeah, it was just, It was just kind of, it took a little bit away from Splinter's mysticism that you get with the rest of them, which I kind of missed, even though it was kind of still there a little bit, but not really as much. It was Tony Shalhoub playing him, which is weird. And
That was one thing. All I could see was Monk as soon as he started talking.
what in the world?
OCD Monk.
Yeah, thoughts on? You have any thoughts on Splinter?
I agree. I think they should have left a little bit more mysticism and mystery, and it should have been like, well, he came from here, and I don't know how they would have done it, but just like it would have been like, ooh, we're not sure why he's so smart. Like, don't just say, yep, I was a rat in a lab. They gave me a bunch of stuff, and then I read a book, and look at me now. Also, why did he not become as big as the turtles?
Right now, the rat was like so much bigger than the turtles. I don't know what kind of turtles they were.
Well, yeah, but then like they grew up so much larger
They're
than him. Like,
huge compared to him.
I'm not sure.
Maybe
I would have thought they would have been the same size. Like, I get that he's not as muscular because that doesn't fit the story, but like maybe he's tall. Like, I don't know. Like, it didn't.
I mean, but we could say, why wasn't he as strong as the turtles? Why didn't
Yeah.
he become bulkier? Was his dosage of injections less than what the turtles got? Did they would just harp on them saying, oh, they're going to be much more powerful? I mean, when it comes to Splinter, my big thing, I guess, was just, okay, the book. Yeah, they only showed him with one book, and that's how he learned martial arts. If they had showed him, like, I don't know, happened to just go around New York and just found a
bunch of books.
bookstore, I'd be like, okay, and just, hint to the fact that I used to go to this bookstore and I just happened to see this book. I was reading all these other books, but this one just appealed to me. It's like that would have been like, okay, that's where he got all of his insight from reading all of these books, and that's where his mysticism. They could have emphasized and brought that out a lot more, but yes, they did fall short of Splinter's origin. Yes.
The book didn't even look that long either.
No.
Like it would have been like 50, maybe 100 pages.
Children's book on beginning of martial arts.
Like, let's be real. He was better than Shredder. If Shredder didn't have his armor, he would have gotten the snot kicked out of him by Splinter. He was so good. It was like, wow. All that from a book. I mean, maybe it came from like his mutant stuff. Maybe it made him a fast learner. Maybe, but hey, it wasn't in the movie. So,
I like his wooden sandals.
oh, they're really nice. But I do.
Slips them off right before the fight.
Oh, that's right. That was a cool fight. Let's definitely say that. Like, and I do like his interaction with the turtles. How he kind of like punishes them with like really ninja like punishments, as like balancing on stuff. Like Donnie's like balancing on a table while having to play ping pong and like
The scenes with the turtles. I mean, they made the movie.
Yeah,
they really
absolutely.
did.
Absolutely, yeah. The stuff with the turtles, great. I think a lot of the other stuff, ruinous. But yeah, well, a little bit on that. A little bit more on the origin. Like, honestly, I think it's. I think I already mentioned this. What did you guys think of it? I didn't think here. Like, I thought it was fine. The whole thing with them actually being made by April O'Neil's father, and actually April being the one that saved them. I thought that was fine, and I thought it was a good way to put April in the story. But what did you guys think of that? I don't think I got your guys.
I mean, yeah, I agreed. It was a perfect connection. It's like, okay, so here's where they blended together, and this is why. But at the same time, I mean, I grew up on like the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and it's like she's supposed to be just this go-getter who wanted to find that great story, and then she stumbles onto the turtles, and she's not completely terrified of them as April was in this movie. But I mean, I was okay with it. I wouldn't say it's fine, but I was okay. It didn't agitate me like half the movie did.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all right. I didn't really like that April O'Neil was feeding them pizza. I thought it was kind of goofy. It didn't really make any sense. Like, how are rats and turtles like apparently from what we learned in that scene, like that's all they ate, like
pizza and their injections.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
they'd be very sick animals. But I agree with Kerry. I wish she had just been completely out of the loop, and then because I don't know, I felt like it was kind of weird that she was completely surprised about these turtles when like that was clearly like a big part of her childhood, as we learn later.
Yeah,
like you would have thought like she might have like been thinking, I wonder what happened to those turtles. Like I released them, and like I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it was not my favorite thing. I think it could have been better.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of our favorite parts. Just kind of like more free fart. Like, what are the parts that like really stood out to you in this movie, and were like, oh, that's really cool or really awesome stuff you liked?
Definitely. I mean, as we've pointed out this entire time, the turtles were the best part of the movie. One of my favorite scenes, though, has to be them going down the mountain, and where they're just all sliding around on their backs. Leonardo saving this, Donatello's turning around saving Raph, and just the whole watching them bond together in that way while trying to save each other's lives. That was, I mean, the whole movie. Anytime they were bonding or talking, as we've stated multiple times again, it was just good. Like, that was the best parts for me. Individual, like the little fight between Raph and Leonardo, it's like, okay, seeing it, that's generally what happens, but I'm a Mikey and Donatello fan, so having them actually be in the mix. Weren't they beatboxing at one point?
Yeah. It was when they were on their way to fight Shredder. They were in the elevator.
Oh yeah, Luke, you can talk about that
one. Well, I was gonna say the mountain part. I thought that was a great scene. I think the beatboxing was excellent. They put in the humor enough to where it didn't make them just completely goofy. They were serious turtles that were goofy, so it made sense. They're teenagers. Like, that's what teenagers are. You can imagine like a 17-year-old boy. Like, he's full of energy. He wants to do a bunch of stuff, especially if he's a freaking ninja. Like, he wants to do ninja stuff. And so that was funny. Probably the other scene, probably my second favorite scene, would be when they get caught and they come back and they're having to balance on the stuff.
Yeah.
And then he starts talking about the pizza. Like, I thought that was really funny.
That was funny.
That was a good scene.
Yeah, obviously that mountain scene, that's the best scene. It's really cool. You get all the turtle action you want to see. Every turtle does something really cool. Everyone gets their due in that scene. Like, I think you can tell by the way I'm talking about him. Donatello has always been my favorite turtle, and he always gets the shaft. So it was really cool to see that scene where Raph's like, "Oh, I can't do it. My shell's cracked. Tape it up." And then Donnie's like, "Let me be the BA for once," and he like does he does the cool thing with his pole and flips the car, and he does his little nerdy laugh. Really funny, really cool. And then he throws Raph into the car, and he does his little spinny turtle, classic turtle stuff, man.
Can we just say real quickly, why is it winter? Kind of weird that a movie comes out in August and it's winter.
Yeah,
that was a little strange.
The weirder, even weirder than that, like you can kind of tell that it was winter throughout the city, but the fact of
they
the
seem
geography,
to get out in the middle of nowhere really quick.
Yeah, the geography is really
not mountainous
confusing.
right outside New York. I agree.
I didn't know the Swiss Alps
we'll be there in 20 minutes.
What? Wait,
How?
what?
How will you slide through this gutter and be in New York in 10 minutes?
No kidding. But that part was really awesome. Logical gaps aside. But yeah, I agree. Honestly, like parts with just the turtles like hyping themselves up, like I like the action. Like I do like the action. Like I do think that Shredder could have been handled differently, but the way the turtles fought, really cool. Like I like that scene in the elevator when they were like beatboxing, like obviously trying to hype themselves up for the fight, like the MC Mikey or whatever, and they all start going in, they're going crazy, and they run out, and the whole thing where Raph says to Mikey, you know that word we used to say when we were kids, that whole thing, and they finally say Cowabunga. Cool, I geeked out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
You told me to never say it again.
Exactly.
Forget that.
Exactly. Cowabunga, and they get their butt handed to them. But yeah, really cool. I have a little move when something geeky and awesome happens. I like adjust myself in my seat. I'm like, I like scoot up a little bit. I'm like, yeah. But really liked that. I thought it was awesome. So yeah, we're in agreement here. We love the turtles. We think the turtles are anywhere from pretty good to awesome. And so
solid turtles.
Solid turtles. Let's talk about the worst now that we've talked about the best. What are some moments that are like, that like just made you realize that maybe this isn't as awesome as I hoped?
I really didn't like the scenes in Megan Fox's apartment with her roommate.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's kind of nitpicking because it's a little part, but I really don't like when there's one-liners like that. That just, I don't know. That just, to me, they weren't that funny.
It didn't make sense, honestly.
They were too goofy.
What, her roommate?
They were kind of dumb.
I need another roommate.
It was just obvious that they were making Megan Fox like have this long line. She was going to say all this stuff, and it was just obvious. Like as soon as she started talking, I'm like, "Yep." Then they're going to pan over to the roommate. She's going to say something, and then we're supposed to laugh. And it's just too cookie cutter. After 27 years of being on this earth and watching so many movies, like I'm sick of it. I'm just sick of people copying the exact same thing. Like if you're gonna make a joke, but why does it have to always be like that? And I hate to pick on Michael Bay, but he does it every single time. Like every Transformers movie, it's the same formula, especially with the jokes. Like I'm fine if he wants to switch up the story and remain that same style. That's his style. That's fine. Michael Bay, Michael Mann, like they both make movies that look very similar to each other. Miami Vice, like these movies that Michael Mann makes look very, very much the same. I'm quoting myself over again. But yeah, they have the same style. I'm fine with that. But just don't do the same thing over and over again. And that's, for me, what those jokes were. It was like, here we go again. This is a Transformers movie made into a Turtles movie.
I think
in those parts,
timing's a big issue with that too. Like his comedic timing just sometimes falls flat. And also, like, scenes like that, what you're talking about, like, with her in the apartment, the whole, like, April O'Neil storyline in the beginning, when we focused on her and her alone for too long. And in scenes like that in the apartment, I think it really just started to really sink in, like, oh my gosh, can we get to the turtles already? Because, like, really, just, like, in that first 30 minutes, I was, like, getting really anxious in the theater. Like, not in good anticipation, like, I can't wait to see him. More like, okay, get on with it. But, yeah, I agree.
Negative points. I mean, it's just hard for me to pick like a specific one because as anything that didn't do with the turtles, I just didn't like anyway. So, but I'd have to say the weird thing was Whoopi Goldberg. I mean, we haven't mentioned that, but Whoopi Goldberg was in this movie.
Yeah, barely too.
If you can remember.
Yeah, it's like. In a way, it's like, yes, I guess I understand they have to have the editor who's there who April talks to and is trying to get her big break. But at the same time, I just felt like we didn't need it. Honestly, we didn't need her. She could have been left out and would have made a big difference. Having her in there, it's like, hey, it's Whoopi, I still act. Oh, okay. I thought you were
only on The View.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you were just on The View and just got people really upset at you all the time. But, yeah, I mean, really, it's like any scene that the turtles weren't in, I just was, all right, like you said, Jordan, I was just anxious. I was like, can we please get back to the turtles? I'm like, that's why I would recommend seeing the movie. If you love the turtles, I think you'll like it. because I liked it. But at the same time, I don't think if you're someone who actually is looking at the characterizations and the character development and the individual actors themselves, you're gonna be kind of upset most of the movie until you see Turtles. You're just gonna be love hate.
Yeah, I mean, that the thing is, like, after the movie got going, and like the Turtles came into picture, I was on board, and like this movie would have been like really good for me if it like could have kept me on board so well. But because like the Turtles were awesome, but when they switched and cut to the villains, and the villains that the Turtles had to fight were so bad, that's the thing, that one of the things that took me out. William Fichtner's performance was just ridiculous, and just like a lot of just logical gaps. Like their plan didn't make anything like sense. It was crazy, and like stuff like that just made me took me out of the parts that really I should have been into the most. Which, don't get me wrong, I was into a lot of parts in this movie. Like, when we come into ratings, like, I'm gonna come to the defense of this movie a lot, especially, you know, bumping up against what a lot of other people are saying, and like the Rotten Tomato rating and stuff like that. But yeah, I do see these huge flaws in the stuff with the villain. To me, that was the most ruinous thing for me. The stuff with the villains and how weak and just paper thin it was. And
the Foot Clan just didn't seem menacing at all.
Yeah,
like in the very beginning of the movie, they kind of say how like it's this crisis in the city because the Foot Clan's like running ravage and going crazy in the city. But then, like, I don't know, like once the story got going, it was kind of like the Foot Clan are just things that we throw aside to get at Shredder.
When they're thugs with guns, they don't have to be the Foot Clan. They could be anyone. They could be any thug with a gun. And so, like, they're supposed to be ninjas, obviously, which, yeah, I mean, they should have been ninjas. Let's go ahead and just say that. They should have been ninjas.
Yeah.
I mean, touching on the Foot Clan, pretty much they're like the League of Shadows. Or that's what they're supposed to be. But, as you said, it was just like an army of guys with guns. That's really all they were. And I mean, the Turtles kicked their butt every time they saw them. It's like the Foot Clan was really just nothing. It was just like disposable minions. Yeah.
Just
it's like, we have to put these guys in here.
They're the Foot Clan. The Foot Clan's a part of Turtles, so you got to throw them in there, even though they're going to be worthless.
Yeah, another failing with the villains. Another big failing, I think.
Yeah.
But all right, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get into the final thoughts and ratings. You want to go ahead, Luke?
I'm gonna give this a 6. I love the Turtles. I thought there was a lot of problems with the script. I thought the directing was subpar. I think the Turtles deserve better.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should have been surrounded by characters that were more memorable, stronger, more menacing, just stronger all over. I thought the Turtles, out of 10, I would give the Turtles maybe a 7.5, 8. I thought there were some things that could have been better about them, but for the most part, it was a solid representation of the Turtles themselves. I just wish these Turtles had been put in a better movie.
Okay, so you're giving the movie, though, all in all, 6.
The movie is 6.
I'm gonna split it up into 3 groups. I'm gonna have your children. Kids, they'll love this movie. I'd give it, for a kid, it'd be a 7 or 8. They're gonna just eat this up and run around and start beating up their friends. For a true fan, true fan, far beyond even myself, I would give it a 4. You're going to be unhappy because the expectations that you might have had, if you had any expectations, would be, it's just going to disappoint you, except the Turtles. You get some relief with them, but you're just going to, 4, maybe 5 for you true fans. If you're just a normal moviegoer, like I do consider myself just an average moviegoer who loves just about everything, I'd give it a 7, because I'm like, it had enough for me to be like, okay, the Turtles, the focus of it wasn't bad. It was good. I laughed a lot. I loved the characters, but at the same time, villains, April O'Neil, wasn't very into them. But so I guess if you round it all off, it'd be like around a 6 or 7.
when I saw this movie, you know, like my expectations were reasonable. I was ready to see it. I saw the trailer and I'm like, wow. I told Luke before I saw it, I'm like, my expectations are as high as they could be for this movie after seeing that trailer, because I thought, you know, it captured the spirit of what I kind of wanted this movie to be, which at some points it succeeded and it lived up to those expectations, but others it just nosedived into the other direction. I think a lot of people are giving this movie kind of a bad rap, calling it terrible. This movie's not terrible. There's a sequel announced in 2016. The movie made a lot of money. I think a lot of that due to kids wanting to see it. As we said earlier, the Turtles are really popular. And I think there's a lot of places they can improve this franchise and like really take these Turtles, as Luke said, put these Turtles in a better movie. And I think they can do that with this next one. I'm ready to see it. But this movie, yeah, it let me down in a lot of ways. But all in all, when I walked out of the theater, even though all the problems in head, I had a good time with it. I was smiling a lot during this movie. I left the theater smiling. But given a critical eye, I can't rate it based off, you know, just kind of my fanboy dorky feelings about it. And so I would have to give this movie a 6.5. I enjoyed a lot. It's not a terrible movie, but there was just some terrible things about it. But yeah, any other thoughts you guys want to throw out before we close out the podcast?
Like I said, I really hope, like you said, I really hope that the next one's better.
Yeah.
I really want them to make a great Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. I want there to be one that defines this generation. We're due.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a little tweaking, it would be perfect, I feel like, for what it as best as it could be, with the fine tweaking between the characters and their development. Yeah, this could be a very well done, I guess you would call it, series.
Yeah, my tip for the next director would be, as far as the Turtles concerned, focus on them most. This is what people pay to see. Focus on them. Put April O'Neil in there, but don't focus on her as much. And when you do focus on the Turtles, settle down. It's okay to settle down when it comes to the Turtles, because in this movie, once we got the Turtles, it was go, 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 go. And we didn't have many time to actually have a lot of character moments with these Turtles. And so by the time at the end happened, when Raph's giving his big confession of, all the other times I was threatening to leave, it was because I was scared to stand next to you. It just, you know that because you know the character from other movies, from other things, but it didn't feel true, it didn't feel good because you didn't see it in this movie. So my advice to the next director, because I don't know who's directing the next one, but I know they're listening to this podcast.
Flashbacks.
Of course they
Give
are.
us some flashbacks.
Exactly. Like, give us stuff that we can see these connections, and we can have Turtles not always fighting. We have, like, I don't want a movie full of talking turtles. That's why I feel like TMNT, the 2007 one, went wrong, because there's just a little bit too much of that. It bogs you down. But just give us some where the movie can calm down and it feels like it has good pacing. So yeah, those are my hopes.
Hopes and dreams.
My hopes and dreams that I hope come true. But guys, thanks for talking about Turtles. I enjoy talking about this movie. I did not find this movie to be a dour experience like, X-Men 3. But I'm always going to talk about X-Men 3. That's never going to be something that I'm like, oh yeah. I'm never getting over it.
Transformers.
Or Transformers Age of
Directly
Extinction.
related to this film.
Yeah, exactly. I gave that a really bad rating. If you want to listen to that SpoilerCast,
Please do.
yeah, go ahead. But Kerry, yeah, thanks for being on the pod with us. We're gonna have to have you back again, man.
It was fun. Not gonna
Definitely.
lie. I liked it. I want to come back.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. Thanks as always, Luke, and thank you to myself for coming.
Thank you for listening, people out there.
You can follow us on Twitter at MTGPod or on Facebook.com/MTGPodcast. Like our page, comment, ask us questions and stuff. We like answering them. Yeah, do it. And follow us on Instagram at MTGPodcast. And you guys have an awesome day, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace out.